Have you ever wondered why some people command attention effortlessly, why their words carry weight, even in rooms filled with the loudest, most defiant voices? Why their presence bends the currents of conversation and their influence lingers long after they leave? It is not luck, it is not charm. It is strategy, cultivated with ruthless precision, sharpened like a dagger hidden beneath a velvet glove. This is the realm of power few dare to enter, the arena where Machiavelli's lessons are not just theories to read in dusty books. They are weapons, alive and pulsating, waiting to be wielded against the complacent, the naive, and the obedient. You are about to step into a world where social dynamics are a battlefield, where every gesture, every word, every glance can be turned into leverage, and where dominance is not given, it is taken, extracted with cold, deliberate calculation. The first truth you must confront is that people are predictable in their desires and fears. They crave admiration, yet fear rejection. They hunger for inclusion, yet dread confrontation. The most powerful among them do not chase popularity. They understand it. They manipulate it, bending the social fabric to their will. The masses mistake visibility for influence, noise for power, popularity for respect. But respect, true, unshakable respect, is forged in perception, in the subtle art of controlling not only how people see you, but how they think about you when you are not present. This is the foundation of the first dark law: control perception relentlessly. Your actions must never contradict the image you wish to project. A smile can be a weapon, a compliment a chain, a moment of silence a fortress. The world judges by appearances, and you, if clever, will always ensure that the appearance serves you, hides you, or terrifies, depending on what the moment demands. The second law is the cultivation of ambiguity. Certainty is dangerous for those around you. It allows them to anticipate, to counter, to resist. Keep your intentions fluid, your alliances shifting like shadows. A social circle thrives on gossip, speculation, and intrigue, and it is within this fog that you become untouchable. Speak in ways that hint, suggest, and provoke thought without giving ground, without allowing others to define your limits. In every conversation, plant seeds of uncertainty, and watch as others, hungry for clarity, draw the conclusions you intended. Ambiguity is the silent lever of control. Those who cannot see your next move are already beneath your influence. Next comes the law of selective generosity. Human loyalty is bought with subtle rewards, not blatant gifts. Elevate those whose elevation serves your strategy, and withhold recognition from those whose advancement might threaten you. Praise strategically, reward unpredictably, and punish with discretion, leaving no trace that you have acted. In this way, people are drawn to you, enchanted by the illusion of favor, and fearful of the invisible strings that bind them. Generosity becomes a mask of control, an instrument of dominance. The fourth law: always measure influence, never emotion. Emotions are the currency of fools, but the strategist converts them into advantage. Observe envy, desire, admiration, resentment. They are the hidden currents in every circle, flowing silently beneath smiles and handshakes. Identify who holds sway over others, whose opinion carries weight, whose presence unsettles the equilibrium. Your task is not to be liked by all, but to ensure that your position remains unassailable, that your influence outlasts tempers, friendships, and fleeting loyalties. Strategic observation, silent and persistent, transforms the social circle into a chessboard where every pawn, knight, and rook moves according to your design. The fifth law is invisibility in confrontation. Open conflict is the realm of the weak. The master of influence ensures that their adversaries cannot strike directly without walking into their own traps. Subtle sabotage, quiet suggestion, the manipulation of context, all these are tools that let you shape outcomes without ever dirtying your hands publicly. People will fight among themselves, argue over imagined slights, and you will simply nod, smile, and advance your agenda, untouched and untouchable. To dominate, one must rarely act. To observe, intervene subtly, and manipulate quietly is to rule completely. Understanding fear and respect is the sixth law. People are drawn to warmth, yes, but they are disciplined by fear, guided by respect, and controlled by a mixture of both. The social circle bends to those who are unpredictable in kindness and inexorable in principle. Let your actions suggest that you are capable of consequences beyond what the ordinary mind can imagine, that loyalty has reward and betrayal exacts an exacting toll. You are not a tyrant in the obvious sense. You are a presence, a force whose absence or appearance changes the dynamics of the room. Those who underestimate the weight of subtle fear are crushed by it when it is finally exerted. The seventh law is mastering the art of alliances. Relationships are not sacred, they are strategic. Identify who benefits your rise, who threatens your position, who can be swayed with charm, flattery, or intimidation. Align with those who augment your influence, neutralize those who might challenge you, and always leave openings to pivot. Loyalty is never absolute. It is a tool to be maintained, nurtured, and, when necessary, discarded. A true master sees every handshake, every friendship, every casual laugh as an opportunity to reposition, to consolidate, to dominate. Next is the law of silence. Words are deadly when wielded with precision, but they can betray weakness when spoken in excess. Speak sparingly, let others reveal their ambitions and fears, and when you do speak, make it count. Each sentence must shift perception, each pause must provoke thought, each disclosure must serve strategy. Silence is not emptiness, it is presence, tension, and subtle pressure. Those who fill the air with chatter surrender power. Those who speak only with intention command it. The ninth law is the control of narrative. Stories shape reality in human minds. Craft narratives that align with your ambitions, subtly rewriting events, influencing recollections, and shaping the way your actions are perceived. Memory is malleable. The perception of history is under constant negotiation. Those who control the narrative are remembered not as they truly were, but as they wish to be. Every joke, every anecdote, every casual remark is a brushstroke in the portrait you paint of yourself. The 10th law: induce dependence. Make others reliant on your presence, your approval, your guidance. Those who need you fear losing you. Those who fear losing you are easier to influence. Never reveal that their dependence is obvious. Let it bloom naturally, cultivated through subtle favors, guidance, and positioning. Dominance is rarely achieved through confrontation alone. It is sustained through the invisible chains that tie others to your orbit. Finally, the 11th law is the relentless adaptation to change. Social circles are fluid, dynamic, and unpredictable. Yesterday's advantage may become today's liability. To dominate, one must evolve constantly, read currents before they shift, and reposition oneself before crises emerge. Complacency is death, adaptation is survival. Observe, calculate, anticipate, and act with precision before opportunity vanishes. In this, the master transcends the ordinary. They are not simply a participant in the social circle, they are its axis, the pivot around which others revolve unknowingly. These 11 laws are not mere guidelines, they are instruments of power, and power is the language the world understands. To embrace them is to step beyond morality into the realm of strategic necessity, where influence is currency, perception is reality, and dominance is a deliberate, calculated act. Every circle you enter, every conversation you inhabit, every glance you exchange becomes a battlefield. And when wielded correctly, these laws do not merely allow you to survive in the social sphere, they allow you to own it. Now let us descend deeper into the machinery of control, into the shadows where influence is forged, and where the weak flounder in chaos while the cunning rise to mastery. The first law, control perception relentlessly, is not simply about appearances. It is about shaping reality itself. Observe the faces around you. Admiration flickers in eyes like candlelight, envy simmers beneath polite smiles, and fear, though silent, threads through postures and gestures. You must be the conductor of these subtle currents, orchestrating each interaction so that your presence, whether through silence, action, or deliberate omission, becomes synonymous with power. People remember the narrative they perceive, not the truth that exists beneath it. If you appear generous, decisive, fearless, even when doubt gnaws at your core, others will believe you're unassailable. In social circles, perception is the currency of hierarchy, and you must mint it tirelessly, ensuring that every word, gesture, and nuance reinforces the structure you wish to impose. Ambiguity, the second law, is more than indecision. It is the art of being untouchable within the labyrinth of social expectation. When you move through a room, let your words suggest multiple possibilities. Never commit fully. Never offer clarity that might anchor the predictions of others. Let them speculate. Let them gossip. Let them theorize. In this fog, you are omnipotent. The strategist understands that certainty is a vulnerability. When others can anticipate your moves, they can counter them. You are not merely interacting, you are scripting the drama of human perception, casting yourself simultaneously as a participant and a shadow above the stage. Ambiguity is not confusion, it is control disguised as mystery, and in its embrace, you are untouchable. Selective generosity is a weapon subtler than a blade. Those who wield it know that loyalty is rarely bought with gold or flattery alone. It is cultivated in the soil of desire and expectation. Reward those whose elevation fortifies your own position, praise those whose pride you can manipulate, and withhold recognition where ambition might turn against you. Generosity is not kindness, it is strategy cloaked in benevolence. In every compliment, every opportunity granted, every subtle favor, you etch your influence into the psyche of others. People will not recognize the chains being laid around them. They will feel indebted, grateful, even enchanted, and in that enchantment, you solidify power. The law of measuring influence and not emotion is where the truly strategic separate themselves from the sentimental. Emotions are messy, unpredictable, and dangerous if relied upon to guide action. Watch the currents beneath smiles, laughter, and small talk. Who commands attention without speaking? Who makes others pause, adjust their tone, or hesitate before acting? These are the true authorities in any social circle, the invisible monarchs whose reign is unchallenged because it is unrecognized. Your task is not to respond to their influence blindly, but to map it meticulously, to understand where control lies, and to subtly redirect it to your advantage. Observation, silent and relentless, is more potent than any confrontation. Knowledge of influence grants preemptive power. Invisibility in confrontation, the fifth law, is the shield of the master. When rivalries arise, and they always do, meet aggression with subtlety. Do not react impulsively, for raw responses are visible and can be turned against you. Instead, manipulate context, influence perception, and set traps that turn conflict back upon those who would challenge you. The social circle is a web, delicate yet tense, and those who strike carelessly often become ensnared in their own impulses. Your interventions must be calculated, almost imperceptible, so that by the time consequences emerge, others are bewildered, blaming circumstance rather than strategy. Conflict becomes your ally when it unfolds around you, not against you. Understanding fear and respect is a dark art. Warmth, charm, and approachability have their place, but they are fragile without the undercurrent of calculated authority. Let others sense that loyalty has its rewards and betrayal its consequences, even if neither is openly displayed. The weight of unseen power shapes behavior more effectively than overt domination. You are not a tyrant, not in the obvious crude sense. You are a force that bends reality quietly. The fear you cultivate is subtle, an undercurrent in conversation, a glance that unsettles, a pause that leaves others guessing, and respect flows naturally from this duality, creating an aura that draws obedience without the need for command. Mastering alliances, the seventh law, is a lesson in pragmatism cloaked in charm. Relationships are never sacred, they are strategic. Identify whose loyalty serves your goals, whose ambition threatens them, and whose influence can be harnessed or neutralized. Approach alliances like a chess player, always thinking several moves ahead. Encourage dependency, offer favor, and create opportunities where others' success is tied to your guidance. Never allow attachment to blind judgment. A single misaligned alliance can topple the structure you've built. The true master navigates relationships like currents, shifting subtly to align with advantage, retreating when the tide turns, and advancing when opportunity rises. The law of silence is deceptively simple, yet profoundly powerful. Words can be weapons, but they can also reveal weakness. Speak only with intention, allowing others to expose their thoughts, desires, and fears. Every sentence should advance your strategy, every pause a lever of influence. In rooms filled with chatter and ego, those who speak sparingly and deliberately command attention disproportionate to their presence. Silence is not emptiness, it is tension, anticipation, and control. Those who attempt to fill the void with constant speech surrender their authority, leaving you to shape perception with precision and subtlety. Control of narrative, the ninth law, is the mastery of history in the moment. Human memory is unreliable, but perception can be sculpted. Shape the story of events, highlight your virtues, obscure your weaknesses, and manipulate recollections. In conversations, anecdotes, and casual remarks, you construct a portrait of yourself that aligns with strategic objectives. People will remember you not as you are, but as you choose to be remembered. Narrative is not passive, it is a tool, a sword, and a shield. Those who control it dominate the social consciousness without ever needing to assert authority overtly. The law of inducing dependence is the silent chain that binds others to your orbit. Those who rely on you for guidance, approval, or resources are easier to influence, and their actions naturally align with your objectives. Yet dependence must appear natural, unforced, a subtle recognition of your indispensable presence. Do not reveal the manipulation, let it feel organic, inevitable, the result of circumstances rather than strategy. Influence built upon dependency is durable, often enduring long after initial leverage is applied. Finally, the law of relentless adaptation demands that you remain fluid, always reading currents, anticipating shifts and repositioning yourself before the social terrain changes. Complacency is death, rigidity is weakness. Social circles evolve, alliances fracture, power flows unpredictably. The master navigates these changes with grace, recalibrating relationships, adjusting perception, and subtly redirecting influence. Those who fail to adapt are swept aside by tides they never anticipated. The strategist transforms unpredictability into opportunity, converting potential chaos into dominion, ensuring that the center of gravity of every social interaction remains tethered to their presence. These laws are not theoretical musings, they are lived truths, demanding awareness, patience, and courage. They expose the hidden machinery of human behavior, the levers beneath politeness, the silent calculations behind smiles, the unspoken hierarchies within every group. To master them is to step into a plane where control is not granted, influence is not assumed, and respect is not requested. It is demanded by presence, cultivated in perception, and cemented in subtle dominance. In every circle, from casual friendship to professional networks, the strategist applies these principles to command attention, dictate perception, and orchestrate outcomes, moving as an unseen force, shaping reality while others stumble blindly in the light of their own assumptions. Consider the subtle theater of human interaction, the unseen architecture of influence, where every smile, every word, every hesitation can become a weapon, a shield, or a lever of domination. By now, the 11 laws are familiar, yet familiarity is no substitute for mastery. Understanding them conceptually is mere apprenticeship. Living them, maneuvering through them with precision, is the mark of true power. The mind of Machiavelli whispers constantly here, urging calculation over impulse, strategy over sentiment, and foresight over reaction. Let us explore the mechanisms that render these laws irresistible, effective, and utterly unassailable in social dynamics. Perception is more than an image. It is a prism that refracts reality into forms favorable to you. Control it relentlessly, and you bend the judgments of others as easily as a blacksmith bends iron. Notice how people watch for patterns, how they extrapolate intentions from fragments of behavior. A carefully timed gesture, a fleeting expression, a modulated tone can cement an identity in their minds that may bear little resemblance to your private self. This is the alchemy of perception, to make the ephemeral eternal, the private public, the imagined tangible. When you leave a room, your influence must linger like an echo that reshapes conversations, memories, and alliances. This is not deception for amusement, it is dominance by design. Ambiguity, the second law, operates as both shield and spear. In social interaction, the predictable are vulnerable. Those who announce intentions plainly invite counteraction. By contrast, the ambiguous project both competence and unpredictability, compelling others to expend energy guessing, recalculating, adjusting. Observe the way your circle reacts to uncertainty. They fill gaps with assumptions, often flattering or fearful, often underestimating or overestimating your power. Each misjudgment, each speculative conclusion becomes a subtle reinforcement of your dominance. Ambiguity is the silent predator, moving behind a veil of courtesy. Attention unacknowledged but always felt. Selective generosity, the third law, is the cultivation of indebtedness without overt obligation. In any social sphere, rewards, whether recognition, inclusion, or opportunity, are the currency of influence. But indiscriminate generosity dilutes its power. The master bestows favor strategically, like an artisan placing strokes on a canvas. Praise those whose dependence you wish to nurture, elevate those whose status strengthens your own position, and deny resources where ambition might challenge you. People rarely perceive the strategy, they only feel the pull of obligation and gratitude, subtle yet inescapable, creating bonds stronger than friendship, more enduring than respect. Measuring influence and not emotion, the fourth law, is a lesson in disciplined observation. Emotions can mislead. Appearances of loyalty, affection, or camaraderie may mask ambition, resentment, or envy. The true strategist dissects interactions with surgical precision. Who initiates conversation? Who defers? Who commands attention without speaking? These subtle cues are more reliable than words, more revealing than confessions. By mapping these currents, you understand the hierarchies hidden beneath smiles and small talk. And once these structures are revealed, you may manipulate them, redirecting influence without confrontation, gently but irrevocably shifting the balance of power. Invisibility in confrontation, the fifth law, requires restraint, patience, and subtlety. The inexperienced engage directly, exposing weaknesses and provoking retaliation. The master intervenes indirectly, shaping events and perceptions so that the adversary's own actions serve your ends. Consider a conversation where tension escalates. The naive confront with words, the strategist plants suggestions, encourages doubt, and allows conflict to unfold along channels you control. By the time consequences are visible, the adversary is ensnared, often unaware that you orchestrated the entire scenario. This is power rendered invisible, like a current beneath a calm lake, unstoppable, unnoticed, and unchallengeable. Fear and respect, the sixth law, are symbiotic forces. Too much fear without respect breeds resentment. Too much respect without fear invites challenge. The master calibrates both. Let your presence suggest consequences invisible but inevitable. Your silence, your gaze, your attention, your absence, all can provoke fear that is never overt, yet undeniable. Simultaneously, the careful display of competence, integrity, or strategic generosity inspires respect, binding others to your orbit. When wielded together, fear and respect create an aura that compels compliance without overt force, an unspoken authority that pervades every interaction. Alliances, the seventh law, are never casual. Relationships are maps of influence, networks of leverage. The strategist identifies those whose ambitions serve his own, those whose skills are useful, and those whose positions threaten dominance. Each relationship is cultivated deliberately, a web in which the threads are tensioned with precision. Favor and assistance are given selectively, dependence is subtly encouraged, and loyalty is maintained without overt demands. The true master understands that social bonds are fluid, and that adaptability, foresight, and opportunistic generosity are essential to maintaining supremacy. Silence, the eighth law, is a fortress. Words, though potent, are fraught with risk. They can betray intention, reveal weakness, or provide ammunition to others. Speak with purpose. Allow others to reveal themselves, to confess desires and fears without realizing it. A pause can command more attention than a speech. A withheld answer can provoke deeper reflection than an assertion. Mastery of silence is mastery of timing, perception, and control. The conversational field becomes a stage upon which others perform, while you remain the invisible director, shaping the plot from behind the curtains. Control of narrative, the ninth law, turns memory into a tool. Human recollection is mutable. Stories can be framed, edited, and presented to serve strategy. Influence the retelling of events. Highlight your virtues, obscure failures, and guide interpretations subtly. The social circle will remember what you allow them to remember, interpret what you suggest, and recount events through the lens you craft. In this manner, narrative becomes an extension of presence, a persistent influence even in absence. Those who shape narrative shape reality. Inducing dependence, the 10th law, is the most insidious form of control. Encourage reliance on your insight, validation, or access. When others perceive your guidance as essential, they align with your goals naturally. But dependence must be cultivated discreetly, appearing organic rather than forced. Through subtle gestures, carefully timed assistance, and consistent influence, You create invisible chains, and those bound by them act in ways favorable to your strategy without recognizing the force shaping them. Dominance, through dependence, is imperceptible, yet unshakable. Relentless adaptation, the 11th law, is survival and mastery in one. Social dynamics are never static. Alliances shift, personalities evolve, and influence fluctuates. The strategist monitors, recalibrates, and pivots constantly, seizing opportunity while avoiding risk. Complacency is fatal. Adaptation ensures not just survival, but ascendancy. By anticipating changes and adjusting invisibly, the master remains the central node of influence, the axis around which the social circle rotates, unseen but indispensable. Each of these laws, individually formidable, combines into a lattice of dominance. They expose the hidden mechanics of human behavior, illuminating the leverage points beneath politeness, status, and camaraderie. Applied without hesitation, they transform ordinary social encounters into calculated exercises in influence. Yet mastery is not instantaneous. It requires patience, acute observation, and unflinching calculation. Those who wield these laws understand that dominance is not declared. It is absorbed, acknowledged, and internalized by those who orbit your presence. Influence becomes inevitable, subtle, and omnipresent. The human mind is the battlefield, and social dynamics are the weapons. With perception controlled, ambiguity maintained, generosity and dependence calibrated, alliances leveraged, silence mastered, narratives shaped, and adaptation constant, you move not as participant, but as director, strategist, and unseen force. Others stumble in the arena of their own assumptions, while you navigate with the clarity of a predator who sees the prey before it knows it is hunted. In this shadowed mastery lies the essence of Machiavelli's dark social philosophy, a philosophy not merely of survival, but of absolute, relentless dominance, where every interaction is a step toward influence, and every gesture a claim on power. Picture a room alive with energy, the subtle interplay of glances, gestures, and half-spoken thoughts, each interaction a ripple in a pond, whose surface only hints at the turbulence beneath. Social circles are battlefields disguised as gatherings, where influence is currency, perception is power, and dominance is claimed by those who see the currents invisible to others. Here, the mastery of Machiavelli's laws becomes living, breathing, dangerous. The strategist enters such spaces not to participate, but to orchestrate, not to follow, but to dictate, silently, imperceptibly, inexorably. Control perception relentlessly begins in the smallest details: the tilt of the head, the cadence of speech, the calculated placement of a smile. Imagine observing a rising rival, a figure whose charisma threatens your subtle dominance. By adjusting your own presence, subtle displays of competence, strategically timed laughter, measured gestures, you redirect attention, subtly reframing their position in the eyes of the circle. Others begin to notice your command without realizing why, your reputation crystallizing in their minds as a force they must respect, a center of gravity that bends interactions toward you. Each action reinforces the perception of authority, weaving a narrative so seamless that reality itself seems to yield to your presence. Ambiguity, the second law, thrives in tension. Consider a conversation in which alliances are whispered, loyalties tested, and intentions speculated upon. Speak deliberately, hint without committing, suggest possibilities that compel others to reveal themselves. As your social circle strains to anticipate your next move, they inadvertently expose their own ambitions, fears, and loyalties. In this haze, you are both participant and shadow, observer and predator. They act within the structure you design, unknowingly fulfilling the very plans you laid, while the veil of ambiguity ensures that no one can counter your influence directly. It is not deception for its own sake, but strategy manifested in every pause, every glance, every unspoken implication. Selective generosity manifests as subtle elevation and concealed power. Picture a colleague subtly guided to success because their advancement serves your own standing, a friend praised sparingly, but precisely, so that gratitude and loyalty bloom like invisible roots beneath the surface. You reward strategically, planting seeds of indebtedness that grow silently into influence. The mind does not always perceive chains when they are woven from kindness and attention. Those bound by them move with purpose aligned to yours, convinced that their choices are free, while in truth every opportunity, every favor, every acknowledgement has been calibrated to reinforce your supremacy. Measuring influence, not emotion, requires careful observation of human behavior. Watch as subtle envy shifts posture, as admiration twitches in an involuntary smile, as resentment flickers in hesitation. Those who dominate are not always loud, not always overt. They are often silent orchestrators, unseen yet commanding, map the networks of attention, the hierarchies hidden behind politeness, and the alliances unspoken yet binding. Each discovery becomes leverage. A misalignment can be corrected, a rising influence can be absorbed, a threat redirected without confrontation. Emotional impulses can mislead, strategic perception guides every maneuver. Invisibility in confrontation is a study of subtlety and patience. Imagine a rival attempting to undermine you, wielding gossip or innuendo. Direct reaction would reveal weakness, but the strategist instead allows the currents to unfold, subtly guiding consequences to align with desired outcomes. A carefully placed suggestion, a quiet observation, a shift in attention, these become the instruments by which the adversary becomes ensnared in their own missteps. The confrontation occurs, yet you are absent from it, untarnished, untouchable. Conflict, when steered invisibly, becomes an ally rather than a threat. Fear and respect coexist as instruments of control. Consider the delicate balance of presence, the right measure of authority, conveyed through tone, posture, or even absence, inspires a quiet tension. Others are compelled to consider consequences unseen, to temper actions with awareness of your capability and foresight. Respect, earned through competence and strategic generosity, enhances this tension. Together, they form an invisible architecture. Fear without tyranny, respect without subservience. Those who inhabit your circle act within its constraints, not because they are coerced, but because the structure you have imposed is inescapable. Alliances are fluid, strategic constructs. Picture a web of relationships, each calibrated to advance your influence. The ambitious are guided, the talented are harnessed, and the dangerous are neutralized. Generosity, favors, insight, and attention are doled not indiscriminately, but with precise calculation. Dependency forms naturally, subtly, and loyalties are continuously tested, reinforced, and recalibrated. In such a system, you remain the constant, the fulcrum around which influence pivots, the axis of social gravity. Silence is wielded as a weapon. Imagine a heated discussion, opinions flying, egos clashing. You speak rarely, with intent, allowing others to reveal their ambitions, vulnerabilities, and alliances. A pause, a carefully placed question, a withheld answer, can destabilize confidence, redirect thought, and shape perception more effectively than an outpouring of words. Silence is not emptiness, it is command, tension, and leverage. In a world addicted to speech and affirmation, those who remain measured become omnipresent, their influence extending beyond what is visible. Controlling the narrative is mastery over memory itself. Every story told, every retelling of events is a brushstroke in the portrait of your influence. Subtly highlight your virtues, obscure mistakes, and guide interpretations without overt assertion. Others recount events filtered through your influence, internalizing the version of reality you cultivate. The power of narrative lies in its persistence. Even in your absence, perception continues to bend toward your design, and your influence extends invisibly across conversations, recollections, and judgments. Inducing dependence is the ultimate form of unseen control. By carefully positioning yourself as essential, through guidance, insight, or social capital, you create a magnetic pull, drawing others into orbit. Their reliance on your presence or approval becomes unconscious, shaping choices and behavior. Dominance achieved through dependency is enduring, subtle, and resilient. The social circle orbits your influence without perceiving the gravitational force at play. Relentless adaptation is survival rendered elegant. Social circles are never static. Alliances fracture, ambitions shift, personalities evolve. The strategist anticipates, adjusts, and pivots continuously. Observation, insight, and decisive recalibration ensure that influence remains central. By reading subtle cues, shifts in tone, gestures, focus, and energy, you preempt disruption, converting potential chaos into advantage. In this constant flux, you remain the axis, untouchable and indispensable. Now imagine this mastery applied in totality, a room full of people moving according to the invisible structure you impose, alliances bending toward your goals, admiration and fear intertwining seamlessly, influence radiating outward like waves from a hidden source. Others operate under the illusion of freedom, of agency, while every gesture, decision, and conversation has been subtly guided to reinforce your supremacy. This is the cinematic reality of Machiavelli's social philosophy, a world in which mastery is exercised without spectacle, domination occurs without overt confrontation, and influence becomes an invisible force, omnipresent and unassailable. Every social encounter becomes a stage upon which you direct, orchestrate, and shape outcomes. Those who fail to recognize the laws of perception, ambiguity, strategic generosity, observation, invisibility, fear and respect, alliances, silence, narrative, dependence, and adaptation are swept aside, collateral casualties in the quiet theater of influence. You are not simply a participant, you are the architect, the strategist, the shadow behind every move. The mastery of these laws is the difference between presence and power, between being seen and being remembered, between existing within a circle and owning it utterly. Now, envision the subtle mechanics of domination laid bare in living, breathing scenarios. The quiet gatherings, the bustling rooms, the whispered corridors of influence where power operates unseen. Mastery of Machiavelli's laws does not reside in theory alone. It manifests in the choices, actions, and calibrated responses that bend a social circle to your will. In these moments, subtlety is supreme, patience is power, and observation is the true weapon of those who aspire to dominance. Perception, the first law, is omnipresent. Consider a gathering in which attention fragments, eyes darting between multiple interlocutors. You enter not simply to converse, but to assert an invisible gravity. Each gesture, measured and deliberate, guides perception, an eyebrow raised, a nod timed with precision, a laugh slightly delayed. Conversations gravitate toward your presence, not because you command them, but because your control of perception makes your presence unavoidable. Others unconsciously shape their behavior to conform with the impression you project. You are simultaneously actor and director, crafting influence without confrontation, bending reality by the sheer weight of carefully curated presence. Ambiguity, the second law, becomes a maze through which others stumble while you move unobserved. When questioned directly, you respond with hints, insinuations, and suggestions rather than clarity. Watch as curiosity compels speculation, as assumptions rise to meet your design. People strive to predict your next move, unaware that the very effort to interpret your intentions locks them into the behavioral patterns you wish to see. Ambiguity is not passivity, it is premeditated motion in 3 dimensions, leaving others chasing shadows while you navigate freely, omniscient within the theater of social interaction. Selective generosity demonstrates the artistry of influence. Picture a scenario in which favors are distributed with absolute precision, a compliment to one, a small opportunity to another, attention to the ambitious observer. Each act cultivates indebtedness, loyalty, and subtle influence. The circle orbits your gestures, unknowingly aligning with your will. Gratitude and subtle dependency are far more potent than overt dominance, for they bind willingly. Generosity becomes strategy, invisible yet inescapable, a lattice of allegiance laid brick by brick, smile by smile, favor by favor. Measuring influence, not emotion, is the art of quiet domination. Observe the rising tensions, the subtle jockeying for position, the unspoken hierarchies within the group. Who initiates ideas that are adopted by others? Who makes a comment and commands attention without seeming to? By cataloging these patterns, you understand the levers of control, the points of leverage, the unseen structures that govern behavior. Then, with minimal intervention, you adjust the currents, reinforcing the rise of some, restraining the influence of others, always ensuring that the center of gravity remains anchored to your presence. Invisibility in confrontation, the 5th law, finds expression in subtle guidance rather than overt action. Imagine an adversary attempting to sow discord through gossip. A direct response would reveal vulnerability, risk retaliation, and disrupt your control. Instead, a carefully timed suggestion, a question poised to provoke reflection, A pause to allow missteps transforms conflict into opportunity. The adversary ensnares themselves, the narrative bends to your advantage, and your influence remains untarnished. Dominance, achieved invisibly, is unassailable because it leaves no target for retaliation, no evidence of design for others to challenge. Fear and respect, the sixth law, intertwine like twin currents. The strategist is neither tyrant nor demagogue. Presence, competence, and calculated generosity cultivate respect, while subtle, unspoken demonstrations of consequence inspire measured fear. A glance, a moment of controlled silence, a deliberate correction of behavior, all serve as reminders of capability. People adjust behavior instinctively, aligning with expectations they barely recognize, moved by the gravity of unseen authority. In this interplay, loyalty is nurtured, dissent tempered, and influence solidified without coercion, visible only in the subtle obedience of the circle. Alliances, the seventh law, operate as instruments of leverage. Relationships are never neutral. They are opportunities, tools, and pathways to dominance. Identify the ambitious, the skilled, the influential, the ambitious yet pliable, and cultivate their proximity. Offer insight, validation, or subtle guidance that reinforces your indispensability. Neutralize threats with charm, redirection, or quiet isolation. Every connection becomes part of a broader lattice, each bond a thread in a web that centers on your influence. The true strategist manipulates this network fluidly, adjusting positions to maintain dominance while appearing effortless, natural, and benign. Silence, the eighth law, transforms presence into command. In discussion, let others reveal themselves through speech, missteps, and confession. Your interjections are deliberate, scarce, and impactful. Pauses, carefully maintained, create tension that others fill with speculation, exposure, and inadvertent self-disclosure. The measured strategist achieves more with restraint than the loudest participant achieves with force. Silence is leverage, influence, and authority condensed into absence, a tool whose effects extend far beyond immediate interaction. Control of narrative, the ninth law, turns memory and perception into weapons. In storytelling, in recounting events, in casual remarks, subtly frame the context. Highlight victories, downplay missteps, and introduce perspectives that reinforce your stature. Others internalize and share these interpretations, cementing your influence in their recollections and conversations. The narrative, once shaped, perpetuates power without action, subtly rewriting social history to your benefit. Those who dominate the story dominate perception, and through perception, they dominate reality. Inducing dependence, the 10th law, is the quiet binding of agency. By positioning yourself as indispensable through knowledge, opportunity, validation, or guidance, you create subtle reliance. Those who depend on your input align with your strategy unconsciously, shaping behavior without coercion. This invisible tether ensures obedience, collaboration, and influence, all maintained under the guise of voluntary connection. Dependence is invisible chains. They are stronger because they are chosen, not imposed. Relentless adaptation, the 11th law, requires perpetual vigilance. Social landscapes are dynamic, ambitions shift, personalities evolve, alliances fracture, and influence migrates. The strategist anticipates changes, reads subtle cues, and adjusts continuously. Preemptive action, repositioning, and recalibration ensure dominance persists. Those who resist adaptation are swept aside, victims of rigidity, while the adaptive strategist remains the pivot of every interaction, the unseen yet omnipresent force. When these laws converge, the strategist becomes untouchable. Picture the social circle operating as an unwitting extension of your will. Conversations bend subtly toward your insights. Influence is guided invisibly. Admiration and fear coalesce seamlessly, and every interaction consolidates authority. Friends, rivals, and allies alike move within the invisible architecture you have constructed, unaware of its design, yet compelled by its gravity. Social mastery becomes total, an invisible yet undeniable dominion over thought, action, and perception. At this stage, dominance is no longer a question of action, it is an ecosystem you inhabit, a system whose dynamics are continuously manipulated to reinforce your authority. Every gesture, every remark, every interaction is calibrated, each small victory layering upon the previous. The laws are no longer abstract principles. They are living mechanisms, engines of influence, instruments of control. Mastery lies in applying them seamlessly, intuitively, and relentlessly, until every social encounter bends naturally to your strategic design. The room is no longer a space of chaos, but a stage of order only you perceive and command. Conversations, alliances, and perceptions operate under your guidance, often without conscious recognition by those who orbit your influence. Dominance is complete, not through spectacle or confrontation, but through the invisible architecture of presence, perception, and subtle manipulation. This is the living essence of Machiavelli's dark philosophy applied to social mastery, a philosophy that transforms ordinary gatherings into arenas of strategic supremacy, where influence is wielded with precision, subtlety, and unassailable power. Now, imagine the culmination of mastery, where every law, every principle, every subtle maneuver coalesces into a presence that is both invisible and inescapable. You have moved through perception and ambiguity, through selective generosity, observation, invisibility, fear, respect, alliances, silence, narrative, dependence, and adaptation. You have learned to see the currents beneath smiles, the unspoken hierarchies behind laughter, the desires and fears hidden behind politeness. You have learned to become not just a participant in the social circle, but its axis, the gravitational center around which influence flows unconsciously, yet inevitably. In this realm, the room bends to your will without awareness. Words you speak ripple outward, shaping thought. Gestures you make alter perception. Silences you hold provoke reflection. The air itself carries the weight of your presence, and every conversation, alliance, and glance shifts subtly, almost imperceptibly, in alignment with your strategy. Those around you operate as extensions of the influence you project, unknowingly reinforcing your dominance with each move they make. Here, power is not ostentatious, it is omnipresent, woven into the very fabric of interaction, unseen yet undeniable. Consider the psychology of this dominance. The mind unconsciously tracks patterns of approval, subtle cues of authority, the distribution of influence and attention. You, the strategist, manipulate these patterns with the precision of an artist painting with shadows. The ambitious adjust behavior in pursuit of favor. The cautious defer instinctively. The careless stumble into traps you have designed. Each action you take, each word you allow to be heard, becomes a brushstroke in a portrait of absolute social supremacy. This is the theater of influence, where strategy becomes reality, where perception is power, and where mastery is both silent and absolute. Even mistakes, missteps, or disruptions can be turned to advantage. A rival's overreach, a subtle insult, a casual misalignment. Each is a tool to be used, a lever to shift perception, a pivot to reinforce your gravity. You convert threats into opportunities, misjudgments into leverage, chaos into structure. The world rarely acknowledges this invisible engineering, yet it is the cornerstone of unassailable dominance. The strategist does not merely survive in the social sphere, they orchestrate it, channel it, and command it, and within this orchestration lies the ultimate lesson. Control is not given, it is seized, crafted, maintained. Influence is not gentle, it is deliberate. Authority is not asked for, it is imposed subtly, woven into the subconscious of all who interact with you. The social circle is no longer a landscape of chance and whimsy. It is a map, a stage, and you are its master cartographer. Every interaction, from casual greetings to deep conversations, contributes to the architecture of power you have designed. You move unseen, yet your impact resonates in every exchange. As your mastery grows, the social dynamics around you become predictable, manageable, and malleable. Friends, allies, rivals, all are instruments in a symphony you conduct, often without their awareness. You understand not only who holds influence, but how it flows, where it can be directed, and how it can be redirected in your favor. Each glance, each gesture, each conversation, each smile or pause becomes a strategic element, a lever to achieve the desired result. Influence becomes instinctive, subtle, and unavoidable. The final truth is that power, in its most profound form, is an extension of the self, an internalization of strategy, perception, patience, and precision. It is the art of understanding others so completely that their actions align naturally with your will, It is the mastery of anticipation, of subtlety, of relentless adaptation. It is the ability to remain calm in chaos, to act unseen, and to bend outcomes to your design without confrontation, spectacle, or overt force. This is the dark, psychological essence of Machiavelli's philosophy, realized in the modern arena of human interaction. And now, the moment of transformation beckons. The knowledge you have absorbed is not inert, it is a call to step beyond the ordinary, to cast aside weakness disguised as kindness, to move with precision when others stumble blindly. You are no longer a participant in your social circles. You are the strategist, the unseen force, the architect of influence. Each interaction is a canvas, each gesture a tool, each observation a weapon. The social world is no longer a landscape to navigate. It is yours to shape, to bend, and to command. Rise, then, with awareness sharpened, presence honed, and strategy perfected. Observe without bias, act with intent, and shape reality with subtlety that is invisible yet absolute. Make perception your ally, ambiguity your shield, generosity your tool, silence your power, narrative your weapon, dependence your leverage, and adaptation your armor. Let every room, every gathering, every exchange bear the imprint of your mastery. Move unseen, yet ensure your influence is undeniable. Dominate without spectacle, command without confrontation, and orchestrate the currents of human behavior until the world itself bends to the weight of your presence. This is your mandate. Step into the shadows of strategy, embrace the cold precision of influence, and claim your place as the axis around which your social world revolves. Leave no room for chance, no opening for weakness, no path for rivals to undermine you. You are the architect, the strategist, the master. Let every interaction reflect this truth. The circle belongs to you, not by luck, not by charm, but by design, calculation, and relentless execution. The world will bend, because now you will never relent.